15.4 million people can bring in a government, and only for the government to be dominated by 2 people or 3 people. Where are the men of Nigeria? Where are the Nigerian men? What are you doing? Instead of them to come together and fight them, they kept visiting them one after the other, licking their shoes. I'm sorry to use that word.
The infamous cabal continues on a clear path to sideline the Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari, in the latest move by the National Security Advisor, General Babangida Munguno's directive to service chiefs to desist from holding security meetings with Kyari. Roots TV had reported that the President's Chief of Staff had fallen out with the influential nephew of the President, Maman Daura, and his ally, Issa Funtua, with the genesis of the rift reportedly from the rejection of ministerial nominees from Maman and Funtua by Kyari. In a memo dated 9 December 2019, the security advisor, without mincing words, attributed the reversals in security to inconsistencies in letters from the Chief of Staff as against the verbal directive given by President Muhammadu Buhari. References A and B were sent in response to the request for presidential intervention to sustain internal security operations of the police within the shortest possible time. However, the contents of the 2 references were in variance with Mr. President's verbal directives. Consequently, ONSA scrutinized the document further and sought clarification from Mr. President, who has directed the reference B be disregarded by all parties as it was sent without his endorsement. The National Security Advisor reminded the security chiefs, including the Inspector General of Police and the Director General of the Department of State Security Services, to desist from holding security meetings with the President's Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, as he has no power other than to convey the President's written directive. Similarly, you are reminded that the Chief of Staff to the President is not a presiding head of security. Neither is he sworn to an oath to defending the country. As such, unprofessional practices such as presiding over meetings with service chiefs and head of security organizations, as well as ambassadors and high commissioners to the exclusion of the NSA and or supervising ministers, are a violation of the Constitution and directly undermine the authority of Mr. President. Such acts and continuous meddlesomeness by the Chief of Staff have not only ruptured our security and defense efforts, but have slowed down any meaningful gain that Mr. President has sought to achieve. The letter was written with clear approval from the President when Munguno warned that, pursuant to the foregoing, you are by this letter directed to desist from these illegal acts that serve nothing but the continuous undermining of our national security framework. Any breach of this directive will attract the displeasure of Mr. President.
Our votes were 15-point-something million last election, and after that only for us to be dominated by 2 people that hinders a collective teamwork that we have started, which is totally unacceptable.
Wannan ya nuna demokradiyya ta kenan, wato kowa ma na iya faɗin abin da ya ga dama, amma ai magana daban su faɗi abin da Cabal ɗin suka zo suka shirya suka tilasta ni na yi, su faɗi abu ɗaya.
The move by the Chief of Staff to the President on the ministerial nominees was retaliated by Maman Daura and Issa Funtua by ousting Abba Kyari in the controversial Keystone Bank takeover deal, where Issa Funtua allegedly used his son-in-law in AMCOM to buy its bad debt and purchase the bank for a paltry 25 billion naira. President Buhari's questioning of Kyari as the official middleman at the ministerial inauguration, directing that all correspondence pass through Kyari, relegating Maman Daura and Issa Funtua to Kyari's mercy, did not help the rift between the once close-knit bunch. We didn't seem to understand the wife of the President, Aisha Buhari, when she tries to describe the powers that the cabal wields, but resultant relegation of the second most important citizen in the country gave us a glimpse of how far the group can go. The cabal, whilst reportedly seeking Buhari's replacement for 2023, has decided to add relegating the Chief of Staff to its to-do list. While the cabal is kept busy in its politicking, the nation has been at the mercy of Boko Haram, herdsmen militia, bandits and kidnappers alike. On a daily basis, destinies are cut short and loved ones are left to mourn as the country is overtaken by insecurity. The terrorists are getting bolder, farmers cannot leave their homes to their farms, commuters cannot ply major roads or rail, ransom is paid daily and mass burials held too often. The call for the resignation of the service chiefs whose tenure have expired in the face of glaring incompetence has fallen on deaf ears. Rather, what we see is the National Security Advisor dishing out directives and, like its Commander-in-Chief, apportioning blames where they have failed. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana has revealed that he'll be taking the president to court to prevent him from extending the tenure of the security chiefs who should have retired. While Nigerians die daily, the National Security Advisor Babagana Munguno and the Chief of Army Staff Tuku Buratai continue in an embarrassing feud. Recent reports have suggested that the crisis between the two top security chiefs heightened when the army chief allegedly removed senior army officers from the office of the NSA without sending replacements. The NSA, who has not been formally reinstated, just like any other political appointees of the president since his second term, is also reported to be at loggerheads with other security chiefs. With the latest blame game within the security apparatus of the country and the continuous power play of the cabal to the detriment of Nigerians.